Top 5 Pac-12 worries, or worries for the Pac-12. I'll do a counteract to this. I'm not trying to pile on, but, I'm a rusticated from the South, so it might take me a little bit. Number 5, the TV contract negotiations will probably drag now into 2023. This is not what they wanted because it's going to create further, restlessness, I would think.
Anxiety
and what's going to happen. And, it gives everybody who might be looking over there just a chance to, hey, look, if I'm Brett Yormark and, say Colorado calls me and says, hey, we just want to have an open dialogue. Yeah, we've got plenty of time. So let's just work this out and see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This might actually be a blessing for them that it's going to drag into 2023. Like, if there was a timeline of, like, hey, you have to have something signed by October 1st, I think they are royally screwed.
Yeah.
But the fact that it could drag a few more months, I think only bodes well for them. I mean, if, for starters, we're starting off at a place that doesn't appear to be all that great. Mm-hmm. So it can't really go down, in theory. It could definitely go up, though. So, yeah, they have some time to try to bump that up however best they can figure out how to do so. Maybe it's by, going and grabbing SMU. Maybe it's by going and grabbing San Diego State and SMU. Or maybe it's going and trying to poach the Big 12. That's one thing I didn't hear from the Pac-12, person, whoever earlier was, oh, well, he's just saying what he has to say. Yeah, in one side of his mouth, in the same press conference, he's talking about complaints that the Big 12 is looking to poach their teams, and then saying that they are open for business out the other side of his mouth, and they are open to talking to teams. So, like, it just doesn't make any sense. You said a whole lot of just talking out of both sides of your mouth and was Big 12 focused, and that's why I criticized his talk on Friday the way that I did. I thought it was kind of silly, but I understand where he was coming from. But, yeah, I think this might actually be a benefit versus the negative that it certainly appears to be on the surface.
Number 4, the Big Ten has no fear. I think Kevin Warren kind of made that clear. Everything that the Big Ten was politically balancing last year has now kind of been worked out in their mind, and they can go full speed ahead. So at whatever point the Big Ten decides to get re-involved in this, they're going to tell the Pac-12. They've already shown that they're not. So whatever that happens, they're just kind of at the mercy of, oh, well, now the Big Ten has more information at the, in the palm of their hands, and they can react how they want to, where the Pac-12 just has to sit there and wait.
Yeah.
There's no repercussion. They can't push anything back anymore. There was a time where there could have been some pushback. There's not anymore. What can you do?
Yeah, I just, again, going back to George Kliavkoff's comments and why I said what I said earlier, I understand from the Pac-12 fan point of view why he had to say what he had to say, but he had nothing to say about the guy leading the conference that basically looped them into a fake alliance to get what he wanted ultimately, which was the playoff on his terms as best as they could navigate that, at the expense of the ACC and the Pac-12, who all thought that they were under this safe little umbrella together, when it turns out, no, you're just somebody I had to step over real quick to get what I ultimately wanted. So he did that, then went and stole their 2 biggest brands out of their biggest market, and left them with no one in L.A., and then turned around and threatened further expansion on media days, not directly, situated right at the Pac-12, but that's where all of the rumors are, which means that, in the middle of the night, Kevin Warwick could swoop in and go grab TCU and Texas Tech or something, and it wouldn't shock anybody. It wouldn't shock me, at least at this point, because I'm open for any idea. But basically, people feel like that was directed towards, Oregon, Washington, Cal, and Stanford. So all of that, the fake alliance, stealing the LA schools, and then leaving it open, and maybe whenever he wants to, because he's not on a timeline, going and killing the conference, and yet you had nothing to say about that dude? You had nothing to say, but you had a whole bunch to say about the dude whose first day was today, officially. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Smoke dragon.
But no, that's just so silly. Give me a break. I understand, again, where he's coming from, but when you add all those things up together, I don't care where he's coming from. That was lame as hell to say what he said and to not say what he didn't say. So, yeah. But yeah, the Big Ten's got everything that they want and more on their side, and they can do whatever they want whenever they want to, basically.
Number 3, recruiting cycles in the LA market. I would think that this is maybe not so far as an administrative issue as coaches are already trying to deal with this, in that, you're recruiting kids for 2024, 2023, 2024. Well, anybody you recruit from now on that is in the LA market and you tell them that you're going to play games there, that's only true if you're in the Big Ten. Or you're from another conference that has USC and UCLA on your schedule, and that game might get bought out when the new schedules get done. So you don't even know. So the only promise you can make is if you're going to be in the Big Ten or USC or UCLA, that's the only promise you can make about playing in LA and being involved in the LA market. Otherwise, the Pac-12 is out of that business, and you can't sell to recruits until you know.
Unless they decide to play the championship game.
No. George Kliavkoff, fellows, said during his press conference that they are going to play games in LA.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he exactly phrased that, but I do know for a fact that he said something along the lines of them playing and figuring out ways to play games in LA.
I mean, neutral site games like they do at AT&T, SoFi is going to be there, but as far as but those are all one-offs,
right?
And those it's not going to be regular. Or you're not going to be, if USC snubs you, one of the things usually you could use if you were Oregon, be like, you know what, come play against them, help us beat them. Well, as long as Oregon's not in the same league as them, you can't use that either.
Yeah,
so,
you're not going to have weekly games at the Rose Bowl. I get that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you are going to try and, at least he says, you're going to try and carve out some LA action as best you can. But, yeah, you're not going to be able to do that every week. You might not be able to do that every month somehow because you're not going to have those teams. So, yeah, I mean, that'll be interesting to see. I think that there is still something to be said for if you're a West Coast dude and you want to stay closer to the West Coast and maybe you entertain, one of those other Pac-12 schools that would have been USC or UCLA, just so you simply stay closer, as close as you can to home. So all of a sudden, maybe Cal looks better if you can get in there, or Oregon looks better if you can, go there. But yeah, I mean, that's a massive void that they suddenly have, and I'm very curious to see, kind of like with Oklahoma and Texas, how does we saw it with A&M when they shifted over to the SEC, how that kind of changed some things. How does that change with OU and Texas moving? And, yeah, how does L.A. change with USC and UCLA going to the Midwest, North, whatever?
Not that it wasn't always national recruiting out of California, not that it always national recruiting out of California, but I think what's happening in Texas in the last decade since A&M left and go to the SEC, and now will probably happen in California more is because now you've got – coast-to-coast conferences and all that. What happened in Florida forever is because you had, your three big teams were in different conferences, so everybody was kind of coming in there anyway. And so now it's kind of whatever. Well, this is the conference of this state. That's over. That whole idea is out the window. So then it makes it even more national than it already was.
Yeah.
Like it whatever guardrails you had of saying like this is a Pac-12 state in California, this is a Pac-12 area. Well, that's over.
Yeah.
So now, look, if you don't care about that, then, every conference is in the water. All right. Number 2, other leagues' TV contracts are starting soon. So you've got to kind of compete against this. And the less attractive you seem over time, that's why I think the TV negotiations dragging out might be a detriment, although, Craig, you made a great point about it going on. Well, say somebody's able to ratchet up theirs earlier on before yours is done, then, again, there's not infinite – this isn't this – the Saudi royal family isn't paying for college football. There's not infinite money. There's a crap load of money, but the money's going to start drying up eventually, and you're going to have to start getting creative about who you are.
Yeah, you are. And the Big 12's got a couple years to figure that out. Pac-12's got, they're figuring that out right now. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, how you want to look at that as a strength or a weakness or whatever, I mean, I guess it's a strength that they get it first, but how much is considered for those still to come will be very interesting to see.
Yeah. And number 1, impatience. This is the thing that would probably get over everything is if anything drags or people start getting impatient, then you start maybe being disloyal and you're not as together. And you're like, look, we just want to know where we're going to be for the next decade. And we can't sit around and wait. We have offers. We're going.
I think Kliavkoff's probably the most patient man in the world right now. But, yeah, those around him, not so much. Because, I don't want to be at the mercy of Oregon and Washington's Big Ten dream, or Stanford and Cal, for that matter, for the next several months until we, something's going to have to give for some of those involved. And then, again, some of those will want something to give, and yet they're not powerful enough to really demand that. So, it's going to be a lot of holding on tight and just fingers crossed and hopes and prayers for some schools. And, if everybody can just remain patient, if that's possible, then they can navigate this as best they can. But you wouldn't be surprised, I don't think anybody would, if somebody started getting some cold feet.
All right, boy, a lot today, and we just now wrap it up. Thank you for staying a little bit late with us today. Those of you on the chat room, the